jaw is in tension, the hips become reactive. And that combination forms the silent code where your energy can't sustain itself. The body loses the capacity to hold steady presence because there is an ancestral connection between these two portals that was interrupted, turning everything into compensation instead of creation. You are going to learn to release this pattern through a technique that reconnects the base of the skull to the sacrum, reactivating the rhythm that determines whether your strength takes root or dissipates before it reaches where it needs to go. The ancients called this synchronization the bridge of the incarnate word, a craniosacral movement that governs vital sustentation. Stopping this video now means losing the moment when this reconnection begins to happen in your own body, keeping active the drainage that prevents your energy from staying where it should be feeding your life. What pulses between expression and rooting is about to be unveiled. The jaw and the hips form a craniosacral axis that functions as a code of energetic sustenance, where tension at one end generates reactivity at the other. When the base of the skull compresses, the sacrum loses the ability to stabilize, and what should be intentional response turns into defensive compensation. This pattern is not only physical, it is a collapse in the bridge that connects expression to root, word to action. In the temples of ancient Kemet, this relationship was known as the bridge of the incarnate word. Thoth taught that the sphenoid at the base of the skull and the sacrum at the end of the spine form a vibratory circuit where the word that does not descend to the pelvis becomes energetic imprisonment. A voice without root generates a body without sustenance, and what should create movement becomes silent stagnation. The mechanism operates through the primary respiratory rhythm, a subtle pulsation between skull and sacrum that occurs independent of pulmonary breathing. When the jaw tenses, this rhythm is interrupted, and the hips lose the intelligence to sustain, entering a reactive mode where each movement is an attempt to compensate for the blockage above. The entire body begins to respond to what was repressed instead of creating from what is real. Craniosacral osteopathy mapped this dance between sphenoid and sacrum, while polyvagal theory revealed that the vagus nerve stitches this connection, passing through the jaw, thorax, and descending to the pelvis. When there is emotional freezing, the jaw compresses this channel and the hips enter perpetual defense, locking the flow that should feed presence and direction. The body gets trapped in a circuit where energy does not sustain itself because the code between the two portals was deactivated. This interruption is the reason for chronic fatigue that no rest resolves, for the lack of direction that no strategy corrects, for the feeling of being adrift even when you try to move forward. Someone lived whole years under this pattern until discovering how to reverse the code, and what happened to that person will illuminate what is about to awaken in you. Sylvia was rehearsing a confrontation scene when she noticed she couldn't sustain her voice until the end of the line. At 45 years old, a theater actress, she felt her jaw lock halfway through the most intense sentences, as if the body refused to let the emotion descend completely. The director asked for presence, rooting, and she tried, but her hips didn't respond. They stayed rigid, reactive, as if they were protecting something instead of sustaining the character. Off stage, the fatigue was constant, not the tiredness of someone who works a lot, but the exhaustion of someone who compensates all the time without knowing for what. Decisions she made in the morning lost strength by afternoon. Difficult conversations she planned to have got stuck in her throat. Sylvia realized she lived in a chronic tension between what she wanted to express and what her body allowed to come out. She tried vocal technique classes to free the voice, but the jaw kept locking. She did Pilates to strengthen the core, but the hips remained defensive. She sought acupuncture for the stiffness, and the relief lasted a few hours. Nothing touched the real pattern, because no one was looking at the connection between the mouth that held and the base that reacted. It was the movement coach of a fellow cast member who mentioned something strange. There is a rhythm between the skull and the sacrum that, when blocked, prevents the voice from having a root. He didn't explain much. He just gave the name of an osteopath who worked with actors. In the session, the woman placed one hand at the base of Sylvia's skull and the other on her sacrum, and asked her to release a low sound while allowing the jaw to soften completely. Sylvia felt something give way between her throat and her pelvis, as if a bridge had been reconnected. You are going to do now in your own body the same movement that released this code in her. Lie down in a place where you can be completely alone, unhurried, without interruption. Bend your knees and keep your feet supported on the floor, letting your entire spine rest in contact with the surface. Allow your mouth to open slightly, as if the jaw lost interest in staying closed, and observe its weight descending, softening, releasing any effort of control. Breathe through the slightly open mouth, without forcing anything, simply allowing the air to come in and out freely while you pay attention to what happens in the pelvis. Notice whether the hips react to the relaxation of the jaw, whether something moves down there when you release the tension above. It may be subtle, almost imperceptible, but the body is beginning to recognize that these two portals converse. Now observe whether there is cross-tension between jaw and hips. When the left jaw tightens, does the right hip harden? Or is the pattern the opposite? Don't try to correct it, just map where reactivity lives. This recognition is already part of the release, because the body cannot let go of what it still doesn't know it is holding. Keeping the mouth slightly open, begin to emit low sounds, very low, almost vibratory whispers that are born in the throat and descend. Don't sing, don't force volume, just allow the vibration to pass through the chest, glide through the abdomen, and touch the pelvis. Feel how the jaw softens even more when the voice is allowed to descend to the root, and observe the hips responding with less defense, with more openness. Continue vocalizing while paying attention to the quality of the base. The hips that used to react begin to sustain, as if they have received the signal that they no longer need to compensate for the blockage above. The tension is transforming into vibration, and the vibration is reconnecting the axis between skull and sacrum, reactivating the code that keeps energy circulating instead of draining. Take 3 deep breaths, keeping the mouth slightly open, and feel the weight of the whole body resting on the floor. Something has changed in the relationship between jaw and hips, and you already realize that sustenance does not depend on force, it depends on synchronization. Before continuing, there is something about Sylvia that needs to be revealed now, because what happened to her illuminates what is beginning to happen in you. Sylvia kept practicing the jaw release every day, and in the first weeks, she noticed that rehearsals in the theater changed completely. Her voice descended to the pelvis without effort, and for the first time in years she was able to sustain an entire scene without feeling that the body was reacting instead of creating. The director noticed. He commented that she seemed rooted, present in a way he had never seen before. Off stage, the changes were even more trackable. Sylvia slept more deeply, woke up without her jaw locked, and the decisions she made stayed firm over the days. Difficult conversations that used to get stuck in her throat came out with clarity because the body had learned that expressing was not dangerous, that the root sustained what the mouth said. The sensation of always being adrift, always compensating, was replaced by a quiet stability she didn't know was possible. She understood that her energy did not sustain itself because her hips were in reactive mode, trying to compensate for the chronic tension of the jaw. When the code between these two portals was reactivated, the entire body returned to operating as an integrated system, not as fragmented defense. What Sylvia discovered is exactly what is beginning to awaken in your body now, and the practice that follows will deepen this reconnection. Still lying down, with your knees bent and your feet on the floor, begin to make a minimal pelvic movement, almost invisible. It is not a big tilt. It is a millimetric glide of the sacrum forward and back, as if you were drawing a subtle wave at the base of the spine. While you do this, keep the jaw completely loose, mouth slightly open, without tension. Observe the dialogue that begins to arise between skull and sacrum. When the sacrum moves, the base of the skull responds. When the jaw softens, the hips lose their defense. This is the craniosacral rhythm being reactivated, the synchronization that determines whether your energy sustains itself or dissipates before it reaches where it needs to go. Now, while you continue the subtle pelvic movement, repeat internally, "I sustain myself in my own truth." Don't force the phrase, just let it pulse along with the rhythm of the sacrum, as if you were inscribing a new instruction into the code of the body. The loose jaw allows the voice to have a root, and the intentional hips sustain what expression creates. Take a deep breath, stop the movement, and feel the whole body integrated. Loose jaw, stable hips, energy circulating instead of draining. The central practice is complete. And what you have just activated in your body is going to be sealed now in a way that can be accessed whenever you need it. Take a deep breath and notice that the air now descends to the pelvis without interruption at the diaphragm, as if the path between mouth and sacrum had been cleared. The hips carry a sensation of stable weight, no longer the defensive reactivity that compensated for tension, but a quiet firmness that sustains without effort. This is the marker that the code has been reactivated. To anchor this reconnection, place one hand lightly over the temporomandibular joint, right in front of the ear, and the other over the sacrum. Keep both hands on these points for 30 seconds while breathing deeply, allowing the body to register this new neural route between skull and pelvis. This simultaneous touch seals the synchronization that has just been re-established. When you feel the jaw tense again in the coming days, stop wherever you are. Breathe through the slightly open mouth and touch the sacrum with your hand. Repeat internally, "My energy sustains itself when my expression meets my root." This minimal gesture reactivates the code whenever the old pattern tries to return, turning this video into a portable tool that you carry in your own body. What was released here does not disappear. It only asks to be remembered. The reconnection between jaw and hips is complete, and what comes now is the integration of what this means for the way you inhabit your life. When energy finally sustains itself, you stop living adrift or in perpetual compensation. Decisions no longer crumble halfway through, projects maintain direction, and the presence that used to escape through the pores now takes root where it should be creating. You realize that chronic fatigue was not a lack of rest. It was the cost of a body operating in reactive mode while trying to sustain what the jaw would not let be expressed. This code between skull and sacrum is only one of the many ancestral circuits that can be reactivated. There are other forgotten bridges in your body, other silenced rhythms that determine how energy flows or dissipates. Each discovery reveals a new layer of somatic intelligence waiting to be accessed, and what you experienced here is the beginning of a much larger reconnection. As Moshe Feldenkrais said, movement is life. Life is a process. Improve the quality of the process and you improve the quality of life. The energetic sustenance you recovered does not come from external force. It comes from the wisdom inscribed in the body itself, from the intelligence that designed this temple so that expression and rooting would be a single movement, not a fragmented struggle. If this video resonated with you, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Share it with someone you recognize who lives in perpetual compensation, who feels energy draining without knowing why. Consider becoming a channel member to support the production of more somatic practices with this depth and help us reach other seekers who need this knowledge. Write in the comments, "I reactivated the silent code between my jaw and my hips, and now my energy sustains itself." This affirmation anchors in the external world the transformation that has just happened in your body, creating a witness of reconnection that reinforces the practice and inspires others who still carry this drainage pattern. Keep exploring other techniques, practices, and knowledge available on the channel to discover where else your potency may be dammed up. Click the video that is appearing on the screen now and check out more transformative content from the channel. The jaw that releases and the hips that stop reacting are not just muscles relaxing. They are portals reconnecting so that energy finally circulates where it should be, sustaining your presence, your creation, and your entire life.